Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP. Nick is here in attendance with me once more because today we're going to be going through our NXT recap for this week's edition of NXT. This is the Tuesday 9th edition. How about we get down into all the action that took place across the course of the night, and let's discuss everything that went on with this show. So, we would kick things off with Javon Evans, who would storm into the ring from the ringside area, basically just calling out Josh Briggs, who would appear immediately. This obviously goes back to 2 weeks ago. Sorry, we'll go back to last week where Javon would want to sort of get his hands on Josh Briggs. Ava would say, nope, you gotta wait. If you wait this week, you can have him next week. And that's exactly what he did. And he didn't want to wait a second longer than he needed to. He went right out at the start of the show and took it on to Josh Briggs straight away. The two would have a pretty fun match, to be honest, back and forth. Quite high intensity to kick things off here, obviously originating from a little brawl that began to start with, and then obviously would then originate into a match as it went on. But yeah, quite fun to be fair. I enjoyed the contest. Thought both men really showcased what they could do at the early stages here. Got the crowd pumped, ready to go. And it was a good vibe to kick things off on NXT. Ultimately, in the end, it would be Josh Briggs that would get the victory. There would be a point in the match where he would, the referee would get distracted. Briggs would take his chain off of his neck. Javon's going for a dive off the top rope, and then Briggs would actually hit Javon over the face with the chain, around his hand. So yeah, a sneaky victory, one that he sort of like clutched up from dirty antics, but nonetheless a victory for Josh Briggs, a big victory as well over the most recent number one contender for the NXT Championship. So yeah, definitely a big win for Josh Briggs. That one early out the gates on NXT. Following that matchup, we would then have a promo with DIY. They would come on down to the ring. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano. They would start to look back on 10 years when it would be the first time they tagged together. So obviously it's been quite some time now, but they're back on their little stomping grounds in WWE. Although they are in SmackDown, they do say that NXT, is their home, and that they are NXT for life. Ciampa goes to say how, he had feelings when he had his last match that deep down he knew and hoped it wouldn't be his last match on NXT as well. So clearly still wanting to come back and run it back again at some point down the line. They turn their attention to Trick Williams, who appears basically straight away as they say his name. And then Trick would start basically just he'd get into the ring, square up for DIY, quite calmly, obviously, as he does. His moniker is very much a chilled character. And he would basically say that DIY can't hang with him and his NXT crew. DIY would suggest that he gets in the ring and so that they can lay him out once again. But Trick would say that last week they got the better of him, and he admits that he may have been caught sleeping there. But this week he's not come alone this time. A little bit of a pause. Carmelo Hayes comes down. A lot of history between these two men. Trick Mello gang, going back to when Carmelo Hayes was Mr. NXT, basically, in his time around, being the North American champion, and then obviously the NXT champion at some point as well. He was him well and truly. So yeah, lots of history between these two men before stuff went down between the two. We would have a little bit of an interaction. Mello would start to basically just get onto the mic and talk about things for himself, and he would question NXT being Trick's house. So immediately he would think to actually look against Trick Williams, the man that he's come out to sort of like, so as Trick said, be alongside in this particular back and forth. But he would question that validity, as well as saying how DIY helped build this house of NXT, and that Mello himself put the renovations in. He would say how Trick is just squatting in this place, and that Trick needs to be quiet when NXT OGs are talking. Trick admits that he's been talking trash about Mello, and that he wasn't right, and that wasn't right, but does go on to say that, he'll squat where he wants to squat. No one's going to tell him otherwise. Tommaso Ciampa gets involved then, questioning, who's the big and little brother between the two. Interesting dynamic between both of them at the moment. Before Mello talks about the backstabbing history of DIY, saying that, they're no better than they are. Gargano would immediately intervene, basically saying how, okay, we're not getting anywhere here. We're not getting further. How about we have a match at NXT Homecoming? It'll be DIY against Trick and Mello. No official confirmation right away from Mello and Trickers to confirm that matchup, but later on in the night, it was confirmed to be taking place. So it will be DIY versus Trick Mello Gang at NXT Homecoming, which is something that I'm very much looking forward to. We would then go on to our next match, which would be a speed competition contest, and we've seen these taking place. We saw one last week, Candice LeRae advancing. This time we would see Lainey Reed in action against Fabi Apache, so from AAA. Yeah, this was a pretty fun, fast-paced contest between the two women. Obviously, it will be. It's a speed match, so obviously you got 3 minutes. You got to get the job done. And yeah, we would have a result in the end with Lainey Reed getting the win. Natalia, who is feuding at the moment with Fabi Apache and has a match with her this weekend at NXT Worlds Collide. That is going to be something interesting. But they would sort of like put a little feeder out into this one. Natty would be in the crowd, but she'd also like stare down Fabi Apache when she was going up to the top rope to look for a senton. And that would basically cause her to sort of like take her eyes off the game for a moment, take a little bit too long. When she went for the move, Lainey Reed gets out of the way and then hits a big knee to the face, which would allow the victory for Lainey in the end. So Lainey advances. She'll go 1-on-1 with Candice LeRae next week in the Speed semi-final. And then obviously the winner of that one goes up against Sol Ruka for the championship. In our third match of the night, we would have Dark State putting their tag team gold on the line, the NXT Tag Team Championships, up against Hank and Tank, the former tag team champions themselves. This would be an interesting matchup. Very back and forth, very high energy, as we do see from both teams all the time, to be fair. When you got Dark State on the outside as well as in the ring, it's sort of a lot to keep an eye on, really. So, yeah, there's a lot to a lot that goes on in these contests. But Hank and Tank, they have their own matching energy as well, and they can sort of like try and do their best to counter the numbers game with just their pure power and, you know, ballsy attitude, I suppose you could say, really. It gets to a point on the outside where Cutler James and Hank are basically in close proximity to one another. Cutler actually tells Hank that, you know, Joe Hendry isn't here to help you this time, so, you know, it's not going to happen like it did last week. You know how it works. You say Joe Hendry's name, he appears in an instant. He would actually like smash through the like presentation bit on the barricade like a ringside. It's quite a crazy spot, to be honest. The whole wall just like sort of like falls through. Joe Hendry's just there. It was a really cool moment, to be fair. Really good, really unique way of having him appear at ringside. It would offer a momentary distraction, which would almost allow for Hank and Tank to get the victory. There's a roll up with Hank in the ring, and it gets reversed, so basically just like flops on top of it of itself. Then obviously a different roll up with Dark State in favor, and that would be enough to get the victory in the end. So yeah, it would be a win for Dark State. They'd hold on to their tag team championships. Pretty fun match, to be fair. Really enjoyed it. Like I say, the energy is always high with Dark State, and especially Hank and Tank as well. So made for a very compelling tag match, and yeah, the interference not going for the victory. So that was quite interesting as well. You don't normally see that happen very often, so that's quite refreshing to see, I suppose, in an instance as well. Nick, what did you make of our first half of NXT? Loads going on here. Speed championship matches, obviously, you know, qualifying tournament there. We got Javon and Briggs picking off where they left off, I guess, really, with that brawl at the very start going into that matchup. We got a big match announced for NXT Homecoming, and then the NXT tag title staying with Dark State. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, the go home episode for the NXT Homecoming episode, if you will, definitely building up NXT Homecoming to kind of be big enough, like a PLE level event. Some of the matches they've announced throughout the night definitely have it feeling that way. But yeah, I don't know if it was intended or not, but 3 of these pictures here showing essentially the same image, different people jumping off the top ropes. But I got a kick out of that. Yeah, the start of the NXT, I'm not sure I've ever seen a quicker, let's start NXT, we're in the action, we're in the match. I'm not sure I've ever seen that happen so quickly. If it has, it's been a while. But Javon Evans and Briggs clearly not fans of each other. And the suicide dive from Javon out to the announce table, I thought that was a great spot. And the go away Briggs chants essentially throughout the entire match. You know, whatever they're doing with Briggs right now, building him as a big heel is clearly working. Of course, this is awesome chants as well. And the the chain bit That was super smooth. I'm not sure if I looked down or if NXT just didn't show the right camera angle, but I completely missed it. And I was like, wait, did he just get knocked out by a punch? And then luckily the replay showed and pointed it out. So if I did miss it, luckily that replay showed me where it was very fluid, pulled it out and got him on the jaw. I thought that was a really great ending. Definitely one I'm assuming we'll see again. He was super smooth with that, so I thought that was a pretty cool ending to that match. And I'm sure this is far from the last we'll see of these two, possibly for a title one day. Certainly have elements to see that go through again. Then the next segment with DIY and Trick Mellow Gang, if you will. Yeah, I thought that was a decent enough segment. I think that, um, you know, I think that match itself will be a lot better. I think that's fair to say. The dynamic between Trick Mellow Gang clearly hasn't changed much in that big little brother, as DIY pointed out. And then the retort where one of the biggest backstabbings in NXT history. So much history there. It just has me licking my chops, waiting for next week's homecoming episode. That should be a ton of fun. I was interested to see how much they were going to spoil for that, or if they were just going to hit us with a bunch of surprises. I suppose you could make the case that they still could do both. But yeah, really looking forward to that. Um, yeah, then the speed match. It seems like maybe KP you like this one a little more than last week's, or maybe maybe not, maybe just about the same. But yeah, with Natalia at ringside, I think the writing was certainly on the wall where this one was going. I think Lainey Reed has potential. I think she has the look. I think she has a lot of skills that could put her kind of towards the top of NXT. So um, I think Lainey will probably take care of Candice next week, and then maybe getting her a speed title for whatever that's worth. And letting Soul take care of the North American only for a bit. A little more on her later, but yeah, I think Lainey is by far probably the most qualified to win this, and I think that I wish that was a full match at No Mercy, but regardless, it should be a good contest nonetheless. And then the tag championship match, yeah, that's I thought this was a decent bout. I don't think I rated it quite as highly as you did. I think simply because we've seen these guys uh, have much better matches. I think you could say that for the both of them. It was interesting that Dark State didn't interfere as much, or at least it felt like, comparatively speaking, to their previous bouts. It didn't feel like they were as heavy until the end, of course. Those numbers games are always going to catch up with or Dark State are going to favor them. I mean, but then yeah, I thought it was interesting too. The great entrance from Joe Hendry, of course, but this time not helping but hurting Hank and Tank. So interesting to see where they'll take that from there. But I think also kind of playing a part into my not liking this as much. Dark State wasn't really going to lose those titles, right? That would negate a lot of work and effort they put into them to this point. But yeah, I thought this was a decent first half to NXT. But yeah, clearly looking ahead at next week's episode and building on that more throughout the night as well.
Lots more to go through on this episode of NXT. Lots of things happening here, and yeah, it was a deliberate uh, a deliberate thing with me putting these photos on. I noticed that they were there, so I was like, you know what, I can do something with this. So yeah, I decided to mix things up a little bit. Why not? Just shows the intensity levels early doors here, to be fair. Let's move on to our second half of NXT, which is very much dominated by one particular segment. But first of all, we will discuss the flag match that took place between Tavion Heights and Ethan Page. For those unfamiliar with a flag match, we basically see two competitors going for their flags, which are in opposite corners. You have to go and grab the flag of of the one that you're representing, and yeah, you got to take it off of the pedestal. So Tavion Heights obviously looking to grab the American flag to bring it down, and then Ethan Page looking to grab the Canadian flag. This was this was an interesting matchup. Obviously, you've got a strange dynamic, or maybe a unique dynamic, really is what I should be saying, where obviously you're focusing on your opponent, but you're also trying to get some space and enough time in order to go and grab that flag. So you got a couple of things to focus on in this one, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I think they both men had a pretty competitive matchup, back and forth. I think it wasn't so much like a one-sided affair at all. There was equal sort of things, bits and bobs here and there. But it made for a compelling situation. Obviously, Tavion Heights not really been on it recently with this feud. It's been good, it's been fun, like I've enjoyed everything to do with it, but obviously I think it's been very much dominated by Ethan Page, and recently as well the likes of Chelsea Green and the Secret Harvest, who have also been in and around the situation. But this opportunity just for Ethan Page to be there, no Chelsea Green, no Secret Harvest, nothing like that, and it was no Tara May still either in the corner of Tavion Heights, so very much one-on-one, mano-a-mano. In the end, it would be Tavion Heights that would get the victory here. So a big win over the North American champion. You would think naturally that would get him a North American championship opportunity if you've just managed to get a victory in a match over the champion. But in the end, at the end of the contest, we do have Tavion Heights leave the ring. Ethan Page is absolutely, he's laid out in the ring. He's spark out. There's nothing happening for him. We then hear the music that I hadn't heard in a very long time on WWE television, and it would be none other than Tyler Breeze who would come on down. So obviously we got NXT Homecoming coming up next week, so very much in line with that. And Prince Pretty, a big stalwart of NXT for many, many years, so he would come on down into the ring. He's got his selfie stick on him that he always used to have. He gets into the ring and he starts posing with a selfie stick alongside Ethan Page, so clearly mocking the fallen North American champion in the ring. But yeah, that sets up a match for next week, which will be Ethan Page versus Tyler Breeze at Homecoming for the NXT North American Championship. So what that means for Tavion Heights, you just won a match against the champion, but you got to wait because we got Tyler Breeze coming back in. So yeah, interesting, cool. Into our main event of the night, which would see a triple threat women's tag team elimination match. We've got the likes of Sol Ruka and Zarya, so Zaruka, taking on the Cullings, Tatum Paxley, and Izzy Dame, as well as Fatal Influences, Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix. So yeah, ultimately in this one, you've got three teams, and once a member of your team has been pinned, you are eliminated, and then obviously down the two teams, and then whoever wins between those two is the number one contender for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, held by Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. This was a very fun match. Yeah, there was a whole lot going on in this one. It was high energy for the entirety of the contest. Yeah, lots of ill feelings between the teams. There's a very big sort of like dynamic here between the women's tag team division on NXT. They want more opportunities. They want to do more. They want to bring the tag titles back, because I guess really in the end, they used to have women's tag team titles on NXT a long time ago, but no longer anymore after they were merged with the WWE tag team championships for the women's division. So yeah, it's been a while now, and they want more opportunities. So this is a great opportunity to get these three teams built right up and to fire their shot, see who's going to go and face Alexa and Charlotte. So it gets to a point where we've got Sol Ruka in control. She looks to hit a Soul Snatcher, but a little bit of a mishap in the ring. Actually, Zarya is in the ring anyway. She sort of gets pulled into the situation, and instead of Sol Ruka getting the Soul Snatcher on who she wants to, she actually hits Zarya instead. Completely wipes her out. Sol Ruka, completely shocked by what she's just done, just staring right at Zarya. Oh my god, what have I done? And then she gets thrown out the ring. Zarya is obviously done, and she gets pinned by Fatal Influence, and that would be Zaruka out. So obviously that leaves the Culling and Fatal Influence for the last two teams remaining. In the end, it would be the Culling who would grab the victory here, and it would just be some really nice tag team work from Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame in the end that would actually seal this one. Yeah, really good stuff from those two. They've been great in the last 2 months or so, I want to say, really showcasing what they can do, really stepping up as well, improving their game massively. And yeah, now they have a date with Alexa and Charlotte for the Women's Tag Team Championship. So that's going to be really interesting. Looking forward to seeing that match take place. No confirmation whether that's happening at Homecoming. It'd be cool if it is, but I don't think we got confirmation on the show that was actually going to take place for definite. So yeah, maybe a little bit more about that one as we go along. Maybe it will happen, maybe not, I don't know. But either way, they will get a title shot very, very soon against them in a very fun match. As Fatal Influence, they think they run the show, and they do have the NXT Women's Champion, so you could argue they do run the women's division on NXT. They get into the ring afterwards. JC Jane has a whole lot to say. She is not happy about how things went down. She basically publicly berates Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix, saying that they're both failures. JC says she's not a babysitter and says she's tired of carrying this group on her back. She says she needs no respect from anyone and that she doesn't need anyone except for herself. She can do it all by, by what she can do. And JC would go on to say how she's the greatest NXT Women's champion of all time. Naturally, you say something like that, you're going to get some sort of response, and it would be none other than the number one contender for the, well, not really number one contender, I suppose. I guess, kind of. One of the competitors that's going to be competing for the Women's World Championship at WrestlePalooza, Stephanie Vaquer would come on down to the ring. She would go to ringside, basically on the ramp sort of thing, and you should get a raucous reception from the crowd. She wasn't on Raw, but she was able to be here on NXT, so possibly some travel problems, or maybe the fact that she couldn't get back quickly enough for this one. I don't know. Either way, regardless, she wasn't on Raw, but she's here on NXT, looking to do something here as well. She would basically respond to JC Jane, questioning the validity of her comments, and she'd remind her that she's a double champ. She was a double champion in NXT. Steph said that she isn't alone and would ask JC what time it is. And obviously, if you ask somebody what time it is in WWE, it's probably Tiffy time. And indeed, it was. The WWE Women's Champion would come on down to the ring with her title, holding it very, very close to her. And she would basically just enjoy the reception from the crowd as well. Lots of good reactions here from the crowd for the former NXT members here. Tiffy would... Excuse me. Tiffy would come down to the to join Stephanie Vaquer side by side, and she would remind JC Jane that she is the WWE Women's Champion, as well as the longest reigning champion currently in WWE, which is obviously quite the statistic there. Held for over 200 days, Tiffany Stratton, so it's been quite a while now as the champion. JC would call both Stephanie Vaquer and Tiffany Stratton super seniors, before Tiff would say that Mami won't be too happy about that. And obviously, when you talk about Mami, there's only one person we're referring to. That's Rhea Ripley. She would arrive and immediately start to question the validity of JC's comments as well, before saying how there's 3 of them and 3 of Fatal Influence. Rhea suggests a tag match at Homecoming before they get into the ring, have a bit of a brawl with Fatal Influence, clear the ring of them, and that'll be the end of the show. So yeah, a big, big last segment that sort of includes the match, the post-match stuff, as well as some returns in there to NXT. Whole lot going down in that sense. And then also that flag match, Nick, at the start with Tavion and Ethan Page. What did you make of all of this? There's a fair bit to discuss.
Yeah, action-packed, for sure, this episode of NXT. And I think I voiced it, and funny enough, we've been talking with other things about a flag match recently, discussing the rules and how, we watched a match and very much didn't. This one more so obliged by the rules, and NXT did kind of talk about the rules of it before and kind of a history of it, so that was nice as well. Yeah, like I said, not a huge fan of this type of match, but I thought this one was pretty decent. Of course, having the likes of Ethan Page and Tavion Heights, continuing their feud, and a nasty spill outside the ring. Ethan looked like he probably landed on his neck or his head there. You could see kind of Tavion reach for him, make sure he was all right. But it did appear to be okay. And then Tavion getting the win. Yeah, I think that's probably the right call. Said before, I'll say it again, I'm sure. Ethan doesn't necessarily need the win. But Tavion, very new, definitely could use wins as much as possible. So, yeah, I thought this was a pretty good match. Yeah, right person won. Much else to say about it. But I think this probably isn't the last we'll see. Can't imagine Ethan taking that loss lightly. And then the Prince Pretty himself coming in afterwards, continuing the homecoming theme set up for next week. Tyler Breeze, I can't tell you how long it's been. It feels like it's been a very long time. I'm sure it's not as long as it feels like. But regardless, yeah, kind of funny you mentioned that. Tyler Breeze says, step aside, Tavion. I got this one. Taking that opportunity, but I'm sure Tavion will get an opportunity soon as well, having beaten the North American champion tonight. The main event segment portion, kind of the last, fourth of the show. They got a ton of time here, which I thought was nice. Of course, that first elimination from Seoul, snatching Zarya's soul. How many times do you think we've seen them two inadvertently attack each other? It feels like it happens very often. So much so to where we're thinking, it seems like it's too early for the split, and then the next week everything goes back to normal, and like it never happened. Maybe one quick comment here or there, but they're definitely very forgiving, which is good. I just think eventually, you have to think that that split is coming, and maybe this is the final straw. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, regardless, Zaruka out, which is probably for the best. Like I said, Seoul not really having much time to defend her North American title either. So another title I don't think was probably best for her. Imagine her having three titles, though. That would be entertaining and very much a talking point. Um, but yeah, this match was, like I said, this match was awesome. Got a ton of time, littered with "This is awesome" chants, and I agree. A bit of a spot fest, especially that one point where it just felt like it was like a chain reaction of the people on the outside and the competitors in the ring. But definitely very entertaining. And yeah, the Coling ended up getting the win there and getting a shot at Charlotte and Alexa, as you mentioned, would be cool to see on Homecoming, and obviously fit the bill very much so. I also wouldn't mind it on NXT No Mercy. I think that could be fun as well. But yeah, yeah, I think the Coling was the right choice. Obviously, Fatal Influence has a lot to deal with, especially here towards the latter part of the show, with the likes of Stephanie Vaquer, Stratton, and Rhea Ripley coming out and kind of getting the best of Fatal Influence. But yeah, JC Jane certainly giving an earful to the other members of Fatal Influence. It feels like that whole faction is a ticking time bomb as well. We'll have to wait and see if JC is able to successfully defend against Lola. I think that maybe that could be the final straw. Speaking of, and yeah, well, obviously having to deal with the likes of these three very prominent women on the main roster, Fatal Influence's chances cannot be too high for that one. But yeah, this is a pretty cool segment. And like I said, setting up quite nicely for NXT Homecoming. And speaking of which, having all those matches, I think they also throughout the night they announced Oba Femi and Ricky Saints appearing on the Grayson Waller effect. I think that'll be a fun match as well. But yeah, hopefully we get a few more surprises, and very much looking forward to next week's episode of NXT. For this episode, I think I would give this one probably a 6. I'll go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, some of the matches just outside of the main event just didn't hit as hard for me, and it kind of gave off the vibe of a go home show. Better than a lot that we've seen on the main roster, but for me, it was a bit of a step down for NXT, who has been doing quite well lately. So, but yeah, that last segment definitely stealing the show, both the match and the sight of seeing those three at NXT. Very very cool ending for NXT this week.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you on that one. They are setting up for NXT Homecoming to be a really big show next week. So obviously that's going to be a really fascinating watch. Looking forward to seeing how all the matches, play out. And yeah, it's going to have a really good feel to it. Being back in Full Sail is just going to be so good. It's going to hit really nicely. As somebody who watched NXT, when they were in Full Sail for basically the entire time they were there, it was great. It's such a good arena. Looking forward to seeing what the crowd's going to be like there, and yeah, it's like a little trip down memory lane, which would be really really sweet. But as for this particular episode of NXT, yeah, although they set up really well for next week, I do think it was very similar to what you said. It did feel like a home, sort of like a going home show. And although the matches were kind of fun, they were just a little fun. They were clearly sort of like stepping stone things going forward, which ultimately is good because you're building things in the right direction. But I wouldn't say like anything really lit, the show alight sort of thing. I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think everything moved in the right direction, but just like nothing really too incredible did happen. But lots of nice little things, some really good returns, building up for next week really nicely. So yeah, in that sense, no, I don't really have too many complaints. But for now, everybody, that has been our NXT recap for the show before NXT Homecoming. Let us know what you thought of this one by popping your notes in the comments. Obviously, whether you agree, disagree with anything that we've said, and just general thoughts. Maybe you're excited for NXT Homecoming. I know I definitely am. I know Nick is as well. So yeah, we're both looking forward to it. Should be a really good show. Please consider hitting a like and subscribe to our channel. Just to keep up with future releases coming out very, very soon, including the start of our WrestleMania project that we are working on. So yeah, lots of things coming out very, very shortly, which will be great. But for now, this has been The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody, and goodbye.